Welcome to the 33rd Annual Mayor's Environment Expo. As we come together from around the city, I would like to acknowledge that the Calgary area, where the Bow and Elbow Rivers meet, is a place of confluence, where the sharing of ideas and opportunities naturally come together. Indigenous people were the original caretakers of this land and the first champions of environmental conservation. This land is a home that we all share, and it's vitally important that we protect our home, our environment, by working together. What drives my optimism is seeing the innovation and commitment to climate action from all of you, our students. I will continue to amplify youth voices on the climate crisis, and I look forward to hearing your ideas. I hope this session sparks conversations and encourages all of us to take greater action in protecting our environment. Thank you all for participating.
Hello and bonjour. My name is Phil and I work for Parks Canada here in Banff National Park. I would like to begin today by acknowledging that Banff National Park is within the present-day territory of Treaties 6, 7, and 8, as well as the Métis homeland. The lands and waters of Banff have been used for millennia by Indigenous peoples for sustenance, ceremony, trade, and travel. We thank them for their continuous stewardship and for sharing the land with us. Today, we are going to discover some amazing stuff about wildlife, and we'll read this book, A Very, Very Good Day. Has anyone here read this book before? Let me know in the Q&A if you have. Before we get into the book, we're going to see what inspired it. I work for Parks Canada, which means that really, I work for all of you. It's the job of Parks Canada team to look after these special places like Banff National Park all across Canada. So we protect animals, plants, landscapes, and historic sites, now and for future generations. We also share the stories of our special places with people like you. You can also let me know in the Q&A section if you have ever visited a national park or a national historic site before. Here is a map of our country, Canada. Can you point out the province of Alberta on this map? There we are. And here's Calgary. And here is Banff. It takes about an hour and a half to drive from Banff National Park to Calgary, so a lot of Calgarians come to visit us. Can you name something that Banff National Park is famous for? I'm going to put up some hints on the screen in pictures, and you can put your answers in the Q&A if you'd like. In Banff, we have beautiful mountains. There's water in the form of glaciers, lakes, rivers, and snow, and hot springs. People come here for activities like camping, canoeing, skiing, hiking, and we protect many kinds of amazing wildlife like bison, wolves, elk, deer, cougars, and grizzly bears. People come from all over the world. They come here hoping to see Banff's bears. So we created a storybook about this little bear, Ursa, who lives in Banff National Park. We wanted to help people understand how they could help keep Ursa and other grizzly bears healthy and wild. For bears and people to get along well, we need to be good at sharing this place. Now, how many grizzly bears live in Banff National Park? If you want to guess, write down the number of bears you think we have, and how many people visit Banff National Park every year. Write down your guesses in the Q&A. I'm seeing some good guesses come in, so are you ready for the answer? That's right. Well, we have about 70 grizzly bears, and about 4 million people every year visit our park. Did anyone's guesses come close? That means that for every one grizzly bear living in Banff National Park, there are about 60,000 visitors every year. Each of these figures represents 1,000 people. That's why Banff's wildlife rules are so important. They allow animals and people to share this space safely. Let's look at the wildlife part first. So, how do we know if an animal is a pet or if it's wildlife? Go ahead and type your ideas in the chat. When we're trying to figure this out, we can ask questions like, where does the animal live? What do they eat? And who do they hang out with? So here we have wildlife. It lives in natural areas away from humans, whereas our pets, they're sheltered in our homes. The wildlife has to find its own food and water, but our pets, we feed the food that we buy for them. The wildlife, they live with their own kind, but pets, they live with people. So, are grizzly bears wild or are they pets? What do you think? That's right, they're wildlife. Grizzly bears are wild animals that find their own food and live in a natural environment away from people. So let's look at the rules now of wildlife rules. You see, words can have more than one meaning. Rules can mean instructions about what you are supposed to do or not do. It can mean having power over something, like Queen Elizabeth rules England. And it's the best, super cool, most awesome thing. Wildlife rules means all of these things in Banff National Park. There are things we should and shouldn't do around wildlife. Wildlife has power in our wilderness. And animals are totally amazing. Let's use our imaginations for a moment. We're going to pretend that we are all grizzly bears. Imagine that you're covered in thick fur, that you're super strong. Look at your hands and imagine that your bear claws are as long and as thick as your fingers. It's winter now, so what are other bears like you doing in the wintertime? That's right, they're sleeping. Bears dig a cozy den high up in the mountains and curl up in there under lots of snow. Let's pretend to dig a den. Okay, now show me how you hibernate. That's very good. Now, while you hibernate, you don't eat or drink anything. The fat that you've stored in your body contains all the energy you'll need to sleep the winter away. Now, let's imagine that spring is coming and your amazing sniffer picks up the smell of melting snow and wet dirt. That means that plants will start to sprout soon, and there will be food. It's time to wake up and get up and stretch. Do you know that the whole time you were sleeping for all those months, you also didn't get up to pee or poo? If human you tried to do that, you would get very sick. But bears can do that. You didn't eat all winter, and you've used up most of your fat. So now it's time to switch into summer mode. Eating. Bears wake up hungry and stay hungry all summer long. In the summer, bears don't sleep all that much. They're too busy trying to eat and find lots of food because they need to get fat to sleep through the next winter. If you are a grizzly bear, awake equals hungry. Bears find most of their food by sniffing it out. They have an amazing sense of smell, over 2,000 times better than a human's. A bear will investigate any interesting smells in case it might be food. Even toothpaste and shampoo can smell like they might be tasty. This is why when we're in a bear's home, like Banff National Park, we need to be really careful with anything that smells interesting so that we don't attract bears and have trouble with them. Here's a really important idea. Bears remember where they find good food. So if they find food from our garbage, or at a picnic area, or at the roadside, they will return there to look for more good food. If a bear comes into a campsite, that can be really scary for the campers, right? That's why we have wildlife rules about putting all your food away, even if you're just stepping away for a minute. So where is a good, safe place to store our things that smell interesting? Somewhere that a bear can't get at it. Is a tent a good place? No, the bear can get into a tent pretty easily. What about a cooler? Nope, bears can open coolers. Is a car or a hard-sided trailer a good place? Yes. And Parks Canada also provides bear-proof lockers for campers that don't have another safe place to store their food. What about garbage? Is this what we want to see? No way. Bears should be eating natural foods, not garbage. We have a wildlife rule about garbage too. It needs to be in a bear-proof bin, just like this one. This is the most important wildlife rule of all. Do not feed wildlife in Banff National Park. It doesn't matter if it's a cute little squirrel, a bird, or a bear. Whether it's on purpose or by accident, wildlife that gets into food or garbage from humans can develop bad habits and might have to be removed from the park. Well, thanks for helping us keep all of Banff National Park's wildlife healthy and wild. And now, as promised, it's time for our story, A Very, Very Good Day. Ursa and her brother Arctos live with Mama Grizzly in Banff National Park. They spend their days looking for tasty treats to fill their bellies. In fact, all bears really think about is food. Bears have big, sharp teeth, so you might guess that they eat mostly meat or fish. But Banff's bears actually rely on sugary berries to get fat enough to sleep through the winter. Bears have to eat a lot. Mama Grizzly knows that the berries high up in the mountains are not ripe yet. If they walk to the bottom of the valley where it's warmer, they can have a feast. Along the way, the Grizzlies find some delectable dandelions growing in a sunny spot near the railway tracks. The bears are so busy eating that they don't notice a train coming around the corner. The train blows its horn to warn them. Choo-choo! The noise makes Ursa jump, and she slips down the steep bank into the Bow River. Sploof! The river carries Ursa away. Ursa clings to a floating log through the icy rapids. She finally reaches the riverbank. Ursa is all alone for the first time ever. As she shakes the water from her thick fur, Ursa sees something move. A fat chipmunk. That would be a wonderful snack. The chipmunk runs away as fast as he can. Eep! Ursa chases him up Johnston Creek. The chipmunk dives for cover. Eep! Under a berry bush. Ursa hardly chews her first mouthful of berries when she hears a shout. People! Ursa is surrounded. It's a bear jam. People are getting way too close to this bear. Let's call Parks Canada. The wildlife guardians arrive to make sure that people give Ursa enough space to feel comfortable. The crowd backs away to watch the cub from a safe distance. Ursa makes a dash for cover in the trees. I wonder where the mama bear is. A little while later, Ursa finds a raven jumping up and down on a curious-looking box. Something inside smells yummy. She can't resist. Ursa jumps in and gobbles up marshmallows, hot dogs and buns, a package of bacon, peanut butter, mustard and ketchup, and cookies. A gust of wind slams the lid shut. Ursa can hear people outside. She's frightened, so she stays quiet and still. The people pick up the cooler and put it back into their truck. The truck speeds off down the Bow Valley Parkway. It's going too fast for Ursa to jump out. It's going too fast for this road. As soon as the truck stops, Ursa leaps out and hides in the forest. The people realize that a bear ate their food. They call Parks Canada to report it. A wildlife officer arrives to place a bear warning sign. Once a bear has tasted human food, it might come back looking for more. On the Fenland Trail, an off-leash dog chases Ursa straight into a runner wearing earbuds. Ursa leaps into Echo Creek to escape. She spends a cold and lonely night feeling ill from eating all of that human food. Meanwhile, Mama Grizzly and Arctos search the Bow Valley for any sign of Ursa. They search under highway crossings and over them, until they reach Vermilion Lakes. Mama Grizzly finally catches Ursa's scent. She follows her track along Fenland Trail and across Echo Creek. Finally, the family is together again. Grizzly mamas are some of the best mothers ever. Mama Grizzly leads her cubs to a nice patch of ripe, juicy berries. I'm glad to see this cub back with her family. Her mother is teaching her to eat natural foods. That's what bears should do. I hope we can keep her on the path to a healthy and wild life. And for Ursa, that means it's been a very, very good day. Now that you've heard Ursa's story and you know the wildlife rules, it's time for you to become an honorary wildlife guardian. It's easy. We're going to make a pledge together. It's called the Bear Care Swear. Everybody, put your right hand over your heart like this and raise your left hand like this. Now, repeat after me out loud. To save Banff's bears, we do declare. We won't leave food out anywhere. And if we see a roadside bear, we'll slow down, but not stop and stare. Because they're there and wild and rare, we promise to take care of bears. Good job. Congratulations. You are now honorary wildlife guardians. I hope that you'll get the chance to visit Banff National Park in person and put your new knowledge into action. And if you see grown-ups breaking the wildlife rules, you can remind them about the right things to do. And if you think that you might want to help bears when you grow up, there are many ways that you can do that on a Parks Canada team. You could become a park interpreter, like me, or a wildlife guardian, or even a resource conservation officer. So we've got, I think, about 9 minutes left to answer any questions that you might have. If you have any burning questions, you can put them in the Q&A section, and I'll make sure that we get to them.
Hey, Phil, it's
Hi,
Lori
Lori.
here. Hi, I've been watching questions come into the Q&A, and we have some curious students here today. And
Okay.
Our first question is Banff a forest?
That's a really good question. A lot of Banff is forest. It's a very big park, and a lot of the area is covered in trees. But we also have mountains and rivers, and as well, we have the town of Banff, and we have railroad tracks, and we have highways and roads. So it's kind of got a bit of everything, but definitely a lot of trees.
Excellent answer, Phil. Thanks. We have a question from Dylan. Is Banff at the end of the province, and where do the bears live in the park?
That is a very good question. Banff is situated kind of right on the Alberta-BC border. So you could say that it is on the end of a province. And the bears, they kind of go wherever they want within the park. The fences that you see along the highway on the way into Banff are there to keep the animals off the road. They don't keep the bears trapped in any one location. As a matter of fact, we have special bridges and tunnels that go over and under the highway so that the bears can get around those fences to important habitat that they need for finding food or shelter or water or a mate.
Thanks, Phil. All right, we have another question here. It's a two-part.
Okay.
Do bears like humans, or are bears afraid of humans?
Ooh, that's a good question. Most bears are afraid of humans or don't want to be anywhere near them because humans usually mean that they're going to get interrupted with their eating. And that's all bears want to do. They just want to eat and eat and eat and eat. And if there's a whole bunch of people stopping to try and take pictures of them, it can get a little annoying, and then they don't want to stay around and eat the food that's there. So they might like human food, but we know that that's bad for them too. So the only thing they like about humans is probably our food, but we don't want to give them our food because that would be unhealthy and could make the bear unsafe.
Thanks, Phil. Now, this is kind of a related question. Do bears want to eat people?
No, people don't taste very good.
Here's another question here. Can you go skiing in Banff?
Absolutely. In the wintertime, we've got a number of ski hills and the snow is really, really good. Skiing, snowboarding, cross-country skiing, any winter sport you're looking to do, you can probably do in Banff. Maybe not snowmobiling.
And the questions are really rolling in, so we'll get through as many as quickly as we can. We have 5 minutes left.
Okay.
We have, are all berries safe for bears to eat?
Are all berries safe for bears to eat?
Mm-hmm.
I don't actually know if all the berries in Banff are safe to eat. The main food source that bears like to eat around here is called the buffalo berry, which is a plant that grows about as tall as I am, and it has orange, red, or yellow berries on it.
Great. And how many kinds of berries are there?
Oh, that's a really good question. I have no idea. In Banff, we have buffalo berries, strawberries, wild raspberries, cranberries, lowbush blueberries. I could name a whole bunch more, but there are lots of berries.
Excellent. And how long do bears live, Phil?
Oh, that's a good question. I think in the wild, most bears live to be around 20 years old, but in captivity, they can live a little bit longer because they're being taken care of by people. Like if the bears at the zoo, they can live, I think, is it Skoki's almost 30?
Skokie is actually 34 this year.
There we go.
Skokie lives at the Calgary Zoo, for those of you who haven't gone to visit him yet. Another quick question, how long can bears stay in the water for?
I was actually surprised to learn that bears could swim really, really well. And when I was out in the backcountry canoeing on a river, I was surprised to see a bear actually following us. But I don't know how long they can stay in the water.
Excellent. Oh, can bears break into trailers, Phil?
Usually not, because the trailers have hard sides, kind of like a house. But if it was a tent trailer with a fabric side, it would be very easy for a bear to get in. You might want to make sure you lock your doors too.
Some bears are clever and they can understand how to open latches on our doors.
That's right.
Yes. Are the bears in the book based on real bears, Phil?
That's a good question. Why don't we ask the author, Lori?
That's me. Yeah, I can answer that. The bears, in a general way, yes, this isn't a story that actually happened to a specific bear in Banff National Park, but it kind of brings together the stories of many bears, and it was kind of an exercise in imagination to show some of the challenges that bears face living in a very, very busy place. Back to you, Phil. What do the bears use their sharp teeth for?
Eating. That's all they want to do is eat and eat and eat. They use their teeth to maybe help pull the bark off of a tree along with their claws to get at bugs that might be under there. They'll use their teeth to pick up the ground squirrels that they've dug out of the ground. It's for eating.
Okay, we've just got our 2-minute warning here. We'll try and squeeze in a few more questions. There's so many good ones. What should you do when you are close to a bear? Short answer, Phil.
Make noise. Stand still and do not run away.
Why don't you run from a bear, Phil?
Because the bear will chase you thinking you're food.
We don't want to behave like prey.
That's
All
right.
At what time of year do the bears start to hibernate?
So female bears will usually go into hibernation earlier than the male bears, usually around October-ish, whereas the male bears, they can stay up a bit later because they're not having to worry about having cubs, and sometimes they won't go to hibernation until December.
Do bears like to climb trees?
Certain bears do. Black bears are really good at climbing trees, and their claws are actually made for it. They've got shorter, sharper, curved claws for climbing trees, whereas grizzly bears have got longer claws that are more like shovels for digging and rolling rocks over in the alpine.
And how big is Banff Park? I can answer that.
Goodness.
6,641 square kilometers, or about 2,600 square miles. And with that, Phil, I think we're going to have to wrap it up. We've just got a few seconds left. So if you want to give us our last slide, thank you so much.
Here we go. To learn more about bears and all the other things going on in Banff, you can follow us on social media posts like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Search the hashtag Wildlife Rules and @BanffNP to find us. And remember, admission to national parks and historic sites is free for kids 17 and under. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day at the Mayor's Expo.